So welcome once again. And today's letter, this chronological letter number 88, the study will be directed by Brother Pradip Mahapatra. He is the National Lecturer and the Vice President of the Utkal Theosophical Lodge. I welcome Brother Pradip ji and request him to start the session.
Thank you, Vibhaji. So, this letter number 88, in fact, it is as per Mahatma letter, it is letter number 10. And this is one of the most important letter in letter series given by Mahatma to each serious student of Theosophy. So, the letter starts in such a manner like that. Now, we come to what is probably the most controversial letter in the volume. Actually, it is not a letter, but some notes made by the Mahatma sketch on what Hume called a preliminary chapter on God, intended as a preface to a book he was writing on occult philosophy. The copy of the same is in the British Museum, is in Sinnett's handwriting. So, these notes have caused, in fact, some people to reject the whole occult philosophy. Some people, means inside the Theosophical Society and outside also, those who are able to read this letter after it is made public in 1923 or 21. So they totally reject the occult philosophy because of the denial of traditional concept of God. The student is therefore, student in Theosophical Society, those who are student who are subscribed to Theosophy India YouTube channel of Indian section. So the students therefore asked to withhold the judgment, whether to accept the esoteric doctrine or esoteric philosophy given in this letter, to accept it, reject it. In this context, when I was around 30, almost 35 or 30 years back, in the year 1994, a very senior member of Theosophical Society, he was conducted this letter, this Mahatma letter study classes at Bhubaneswar in the year 1994. And in that, he defined many things relating to Mahatma letters, and the occult doctrine, philosophy. At that time, I was a little surprised. Of course, that was the stage of my study. I was not able to understand many things. But when he went to Cuttack and specifically conducted a lecture on this subject, this letter number 10, when he explained on this principle that the Iswara, that the God, Param Brahma, is not an entity but a principle, Tattva, and it has no entity like limited with the time and space. Then very senior member of Cuttack, he questioned uh, that senior lecturer of the at that time, that since our childhood we are always, even now, always saying, hey, this whole universe created by a mighty being, by a God. We call it Param Brahm, and you are now telling it is a principle, it is a tattva. And he became very surprised. So this is the first interaction I had with the Mahatma letters in the early career of my theosophical career, when I was a student of theosophy in the year 1994 and 95. So before we study more deeply on the subject, three things are vividly described or told to us by Mahatma. One is concept of God, another is concept of matter, another is concept of evil. That will go through that part slowly, and each and every slide, if anyone any doubt, they can ask, or in the end. Before we take the serious study, let us, one of our great theosophists, Sister Joy Mills, she has written a book on commentary on Mahatma letters, and that book, she described many things on this point. What she wrote? Certainly one of the most challenging letters in the entire Mahatma letter series. Letter number 88 actually comprises notes sent to a Hume, who was then writing an abridged version of occult philosophy, as he understood the teachings thus far. While unfortunately the original is no longer in existence, we may assume that Sinnett was completely accurate in copying these notes into his journal, although a few individuals have thought that the letter is not fully authentic. If a few ellipses appear in the text as you have it, so presumably Sinnett omitted an occasional words here and there or phrases during the process of transcription. Even so, it is doubtful that any such omission would alter the ideas the Mahatma sought to convey to you. In approaching the letter, Joy Mills says, I suggest keeping in mind three key points. Joy Mills mentioned in this book. Three key points we should be aware of it. First, and quite obvious, we do not have the text of Hume's preliminary chapter, which he had headed God. We may assume that he had written something, perhaps a rough draft on that subject, and sent to Master Cage. For the two Englishmen, Hume and Sinnett, whenever writing anything concerning the occult philosophy, would submit their writings to the Mahatmas for their rebook, either through Blavatsky or whenever they wrote, the Mahatma immediately be aware of that. And knowing of Hume's proclivity means doing regularly, for that he has feeling that he better knew than the Mahatmas. Kindly see the Joy Mills comments. Hume always has the feeling that he knew better than the Mahatma how to present the philosophy to the public, how to present this occult philosophy, theosophy to the public. We can therefore speculate that he was rather determined to use the term God, ascribing to him H capital. God means one God having H capital. Him, the characteristics that now Master Cage emphatically denied. The second point, why I am placing it before we start, because Joy Mills narrated, it should be kept in our mind. To be kept in our mind concerning the situation at last part of the 19th century, when 1875 the Theosophical Society was formed. Then the situation in the India and Western world. In that context, the letter was written. In India, a period of great Christian missionary activity. Undoubtedly, the concept of God then prevalent was less an abstract principle and closer to an anthropomorphic deity. We have made God as we are. We have like our hands, we have made God have 200 or 400 or 1000 goddesses. A superhuman position, masculine, often wrathful, full of anger, with the power over nature and the fortunes of mankind. We will discuss in all these things, God, matter, and evils. We know the Mahatma felt a great sadness over the tendency of their countrymen, Aryavata, Bharat, India, to forget their own scriptures and traditions. So somehow we are on the same path, forgetting, our children are forgetting, the modern age students are forgetting the basic structure, basic principles for which India is so popular. And tradition. Many statements in the letter reflect what may have been attitude expressed by the missionaries, particularly, as Master Cage points out, a theological absurdity, she mentioned in his discussion with God of theologians. Finally, the most important point Madam Joy Mills mentioned, we must recognize that the Mahatmas were Buddhist, as Master Cage points out. We deny God both as a philosopher and as a Buddhist. We all know Buddhism is a non-deistic, not believe in the God, religion. And the Buddhism of the Mahatmas is Buddhism in its original and all-embracing sense, free of sectarianism and grounded in the fundamental principles enunciated by the enlightened one. Principles to which KH refers at the end of letter. Further, as the Mahatma says elsewhere in the letter, we teach, but what we know. Mahatma categorically mentioned in this letter, we teach, us means to teach the student of theosophy what they know. An indication that the doctrine presented means occult philosophy, or we can say theosophy, Brahma Vidya, Atma Vidya. The doctrine presented can be known or experienced by the individual willing to undertake the necessary discipline. So, Jaimil's interpretation is very basic. If we want to be a serious student of theosophy, we can be, and it can be known or experienced by each individual member willing to undertake the necessary discipline. Then, with this minded 3 points which she narrated. One is preliminary chapter on God. The situation in the world around, particularly India, people are forgetting this and missionary activities and the God, Buddhist, all these things. So she concluded with the introductory portion of this review of letter. And the 3 important ideas which I told you before: the concept of God, the concept of matter, and the concept of the evil. So, while we are studying the concept of God, side by side we will find the matter. How matter is there. Cosmic matter, Mula Prakriti. Many times you will find in theosophical text, Purusha and Prakriti. Purusha initial stage, Dayu Prakriti, and matter initial state, Mula Prakriti. So this concept of matter. Then the concept of evil. Who created evils in the world? The present situation. Who are responsible? Whether God is responsible for it, or the individual human being are responsible for the evil. So Mahatma is unequivocal in presenting the occult doctrine for student of theosophy with respect to each of these 3 points: God, matter, and evil. Therefore, it is for us to study carefully, deeply, without prejudgment or bias, what he says. So, this is the very interesting points she mentioned, Joy Mills mentioned in her book, Review of the letter number 88. Book is Reflections on an Ageless Wisdom. And subsequently, she was awarded with the Swami Subbarao Gold Medal for giving a lot of service to the world around, giving a lot of lectures, writing articles, and she is no more. So I am going to present you this letters in the form of slide. Sorry for so as usual, I have already discussed how it is copied by Epicenet. It is still available in a British museum. It is not a letter, but some notes made by Mahatma K. on part Hume called a preliminary chapter on God. We will go to the next slide, that is slide notes by K.H. on a preliminary chapter headed God by Hume, intended to preface an exposition of occult philosophy, received in Simla, September 28, 1881. First sentence of the book. If anyone have books, they can see, or she can see the book. Neither our philosophy, first sentence, nor ourselves believe in a God. Least of all, in one whose pronoun necessitate a capital H. Pronoun means, the English students, they will start with pronoun H. So, this is the first point. Second, our philosophy falls under the definition of Hobbes. It is preeminently a science of effects by their causes, and of course, and of causes by their effects. And since it is also the science of things deduced from the first principle, as Bacon defines it, before we admit any such principle, we must know it, have no right to admit even its possibility. So here, the first sentence Mahatma mentioned is that neither our philosophy, means what is our philosophy? The occult philosophy, or theosophy you can say, or Atma Vidya in the present Brahma Vidya, whatever name is there, we can say that. So theosophy, occult philosophy, or the Atma Vidya, which is coming to us through secret doctrine or Mahatma letters and subsequent books written by subsequent theosophist writers. Then he mentioned that this belief, and Mahatma also never believed the existence of a particular God, a God, which he can have a capital letter H, capital H. Then he mentioned our philosophy falls under the definition of Hobbes. The English philosopher Thomas Hobbes, born in 1588 and gone to peace on 1679. This gentleman set forth a philosophy of rationalist materialism, offending the religious views at that time. His major work was Leviathan. He is said to have made him the first of the great English political theosophist. Although his philosophy was usually considered mechanic, Master evidently considers Hobbes' teaching to be in accord with their work. Means whatever Hobbes taught at that time is almost similar, occurred with occult philosophy. What is that? The science of effects by their causes, and of causes by their effects. The signs of things deduced from the first principle. This Mahatma quoted, and specifically we have to keep in mind that what Hobbes has written, that philosophical Mahatma interpreted that the effect of the cause. Suppose we have planted a mango tree, so we will get mango fruits. So that is the effect. Whatever we will do, cause, and the result will follow. So the God has not given anything particular to us to suffer, to face, or to have pain. All these things, whatever, this is effect by their causes and causes by their effect. Very beautifully he quoted, the signs of things deduced from the first principles. Then Mahatma mentioned, as Bacon defends, before we admit such thing, we must know it, have no right to admit even its possibility. This last two sentences of this slide is mentioned, that we will admit a thing when we have a fully knowledge of it. We admit any such principle, we must know it. Must know means not by reading books or listening from ancestor or any things intellectual. Know means realization. Know means they know it within their heart. Even the possibility, this may be a fact, this may be will happen. No. Suppose it is mentioned that everything is known to Mahatma, past, present, future of an individual. Suppose the members who are attending this, they know everything of us, past, present, future. There is no question of possibility. They know it. It is mentioned that our everything is open book before them. So in this way, Mahatma knows everything. So he said, such principle we must know, means existence or believe in a God. Then they know it, and there is no question of they will admit it. As so mentioned, we have no right to admit even its possibility. Sambhava. So there is no question. So the Mahatma knows everything. So there is no question of anyone can or anything like this, that any possibility that is there. Then we'll go to the next slide. You were told that our knowledge was limited to this solar system. This is another important. Means therefore, as a philosopher who desire to remain worthy of the name, we could either deny or affirm the existence of what you term a supreme, omnipotent, intelligent being of some sort beyond the limits of that solar system. Then second point, but if such an existence is not absolutely impossible, yet unless the uniformity of nature's law breaks at those limits, we maintain that it is highly improbable. Nevertheless, Mahatma mentioned, we deny most emphatically the position of agnosticism. Means nothing is known as God. Means God has created all these things all in this direction and as regard the solar system. So Mahatma here in this slide important point is whoever the Mahatmas or above Mahatma Mahachans, then Sanat Kumar, before that Buddha, Silent Watcher, all are great rishis who are guiding our earth. They have knowledge of everything, but they have the capacities to go beyond our solar system to know everything beyond the solar system, but they are prohibited to go beyond the circumference, beyond our solar system. That was the law. Law is applicable to each and everyone. So that law is there. So Mahatma, adepts, even if they are at the highest level, Sanat Kumar, silent watchers, the silent watcher, they cannot go beyond our solar system, even if they have capacity. So in letter number 18 of this chronological edition, it is mentioned particularly in that letter. If anyone has any doubt where Mahatma mentioned all these things or where it, so letter number, no adept, it is mentioned, no adept has ever penetrated beyond the veil of primitive cosmic matter. The highest and most perfect vision is limited to the universe of form and matter. Page 65. At the same time, in this slide, you will see the master case denies any charge of agnosticism, third point. Later, he calls anything relating to gigantic misnomer in the subsequent part of this letter. So, there is the allegation. There is the allegation that your knowledge is limited to the extent of the solar system. Mahatma therefore categorically say that as a philosopher who desired to remain worthy of the name, could neither deny or affirm the existence of what you term a supreme, omnipotent, intelligent being of some sort beyond the limit of that star system. It is a fact Mahatma mentioned in this letter. But if such an existence is absolutely impossible, if such an existence is absolutely impossible, yet unless the uniformity of a nature's law breaks at those limits, we maintain that it is highly improbable. Mahatma categorically mentioned that this type of God who is beyond our solar system and created this earth for us to live, this is not improbable. So he said further, nevertheless, we deny such most emphatically the position of agnostic, nothing more. Then we will go to the third slide. Our doctrine, same theosophy, Atma Vidya, Brahma Vidya, whatever name you can say, says knows no compromise. We cannot compromise with anything. I read somewhere that we are student of theosophy. So we will teach theosophy to others. Suppose there are students, audience students are there, we will go to that level to teach the students what they can understand. We cannot, for a preliminary students who are available before us, we cannot teach them a secret doctrine because they are there to read. Mahatma categorically mentioned we can give a little knowledge to give them. If you give them more knowledge, the world will be flooded something somewhere, he mentioned. So, as a student of theosophy, we will teach theosophy. Somewhere it is mentioned that in order to bring the crowd, we cannot we cannot sell. Some mentioned we cannot sell to bring the attract the crowd. We cannot sell the what crowd are interested. We are prepared. We are ready. We are teach the philosophy which we are eligible to give. So for the student of theosophy. So here Mahatma says, our doctrine knows no compromise. Neither affirm, then further he says, neither affirms or deny, but it never teaches, but that which it is known to the truth. Therefore, we deny God both as a philosopher and as a theist. We know there are planetary and other spiritual lives. We know there is in our system no such thing as a God, either personal or impersonal. Param Brahm, the most challenging sentence in this letter or in whole Mahatma letter series. Param Brahm is not a God, but absolutely immutable law. Absolutely immutable law. And Ishvara is the effect of avidya and maya, ignorance based upon the great delusion. That is the reason initially it is mentioned that we should not be, in the letter it is also mentioned, we should be serious, careful, deeply study without prejudgment, bias, what Mahatma told us. Param Brahm, this last sentence of this slide is Param Brahm is not a God, but absolute immutable law, and Ishvara is the effect of avidya, maya, ignorance based upon the great delusion. Here, Blavatsky, in her book Key to Theosophy, there is a chapter 5, the fundamental teachings of theosophy, relating on God and prayer. She mentioned all the same thing. God is not anthropomorphic God having a masculine body controlling the whole universe, galaxy, etc., known as Param Brahm. And he is the, if we pray him, he will give us blessings, or he will be angry and all these things. Madam, any serious student can go to the chapter 5, the fundamental teachings of theosophy, subpart on God and prayer. So in this context, God, by given to us by Mahatma Cage, and in key to theosophy, God and prayer, one can know the exact meaning of what God. So Mahatma here mentioned that God is in the Param Brahm is not a God. We are always reciting in Bharat Samaj Puja, Param Brahm, Param Pita. In Hindus, there are Narayana, all these things. And to concentrate our mind, or to our confined to some entity, we have created a form at the initial stage. But that is for our certain period, we require it. But we should be aware that it is an absolute immutable law. That we must be aware. And Mahatma further said in this particular slide that there are highest number of spiritual life, planetary spirit, spiritual life, like Sanat Kumar. There are also Silent Watcher, Lord Buddha, Sometimes we can call Gautam Buddha means Lord Bhagavan Buddha. Many things, many people will mention that. But they are the limited with the time and space. So that is the wordings given here to us, that the God is Param Brahma is not a God, but an absolute immutable law. So we'll go to the next slide. The word God was invented to designate the unknown cause of those effects which man has either admired or dreaded without understanding them. Without understanding them, and since we claim and that we are able to prove that what we claim, that is knowledge of that cause and causes, we are in a position to maintain there is no God or gods behind them. The idea of God is an innate but an acquired notion. And we have but one thing in common with theology is we reveal the infinite. So in this slide, Mahatma mentioned God was invented. Invented means someone invented like Mount Everest or many places, North Pole, South Pole, many things invented, scientists invented. So God was invented by many persons like theologians to designate the unknown cause of those effects. Means suppose I suffered something, some kind of disease, some kind of thing, some works happens to me. So it is because of unknown thing are there. So it is because of God has given to me, which man has either admired or dreaded without understanding. So as an individual, will either admire the God when many good things given to me. So, oh Lord has given to me. When something suffered, or God has penalized me, punished me. All these things are there. Without understanding them, we will say. And since we claim, Mahatma further say, we claim that we are able to prove what we claim, the knowledge of that cause and causes. I told you earlier that our knowledge, what are there, it is open book before Mahatma, past, present, future. So everything. So it is there, it is available to them. We are in position to mention, those who are students of Theosophy should know that there is no God or gods behind them. Behind them means behind the cause and their effects. Whatever we are suffering, whatever we are facing, whether the disease, whether the problems in the life, family life, whatever happening to us, each day, each moment is because of it we created either in this life or in the previous life. So here further, it is a God is not an innate but an acquired notion. God means acquired. Somebody has told us this is God. It is notion given by someone to us to know there is a God. And we have but one thing in common with theology, we reveal that infinite. Many one will question that there are in many theosophical books, subsequently they have mentioned God. But for the student of theosophy who are younger in their stay in their knowledge, they, instead of giving all these things, they mention the subsequent writers, they mention the God, because we will understand there is someone instead who is there, means in the form of a entity, neither in the form of an entity, but it is a principle. So subsequent theosophist writers, they mention God either in the Advaita Master or in any other books. That is not important. Important is the serious students should know that there is no God or God's Param Brahma is a absolute immutable law. And here we reveal, Mahatma mentioned, we reveal the infinite. So we'll go to the next slide. But while we assign all to the phenomena that proceed from infinite and limitless space, duration and motion, material, natural, known to us at least, cause the theist assign them spiritual, supernatural, unintelligible, and unknown causes. You know, the theists are believe in the existence of God, believe in a supernatural being. So what they believe, that whatever happening to us, all the phenomena happening in this world, in this earth, it's space, time, motion, material, natural, sense, all is because of this God, because theist will. The God of theologians are religious people, is simple and imaginary power. They believe either Hindus or Christian or Muslims or any other religions. They believe that a God of theologian is a imaginary power. Then Mahatma quoted this imaginary power of a philosopher who belonged to Russia, belong to German. Yes. Sorry. He's a German philosopher. He was born in Holbach, D. Holbach. He was a German philosopher born in Germany, but known as a French philosopher like Diderot and Rousseau, who was very strongly opposed to this theologians. So Mahatma mentioned in this book particularly about he mentioned, means Holbach mentioned, that a power which has never yet manifested itself. So further Mahatma in this slide, our chief aim is to deliver humanity of this nightmare. What is the nightmare? Nightmare means this phenomena from infinite, limitless space, duration, material, natural, pain, suffering, etc. These are the nightmare for the whole humanity. To teach them, to teach each man virtue for its own sake. Virtue for, and to walk in life relying on himself instead of leaning on a theological crutch that for countless ages was the direct cause of nearly all human misery. So this is the wordings Mahatma given to us to just meditate and ponder over what is the chief aim of the Theosophical Society, what is the aim of our inner founders, what is the role we have to play, why virtue, given virtuous life, righteous life is required for us, given to us in 3 gems of book like Adipita Master, Voice of Silence, Light and Path. Because it is for our own sake. Unless we practice it, realize the truth, then there will be no progress for us in the spiritual path. There will be no unfoldment of divine consciousness, which is which is in a stage of birds. We have to unfold it at least to some extent in this life and walk. And Mahatma further says, walk in life relying on himself. We have to depend upon ourselves, not what theologian crutch. Theologian means Hindus, Muslim, Christians, they have given a crutch. Crutch means a stick to rely upon him and to walk. That for the countless ages, this crutch, theologian cause, is creating all the misery for us. So we will go to the next slide. Pantheist we call on this principle, on what Mahatma told to us, on this ground, they will call it Pantheist. Pantheist means those who have believe in this type of philosophy, identify God with the universe. So pantheistic you may call us, but never agnostic. If people are willing to accept and regard as a God or one life immutable, unconscious in its eternity, they may do so. So skip to one more gigantic misnomer. But then they will have to say that Spinoza is another philosopher, Baruch Spinoza, that there is not, and that we cannot conceive any other substance than God, or as that famous and unfortunate philosopher says in his 14th proposition, that proposition mentioned here, that except God or no substance can exist or be conceived. He is a Dutch philosopher, Spinoza was a Dutch philosopher, Baruch Spinoza, who said that all existence is embraced in one substance, God or nature. Mahatma quotes his 14th proposition in the original Latin. Mahatma, the great student of all linguistic, mystic, he knows everything. In Latin, he quoted this, except God, no substance can exist or be conceived. So you may call them pantheist. So we'll go to the next slide. But a theologian, this is the last slide I am going to present, but a theologian not on mystery and the most absurd supernaturally can imagine a self-existent being of necessity, infinite, omnipresent, outside the manifested, boundless universe. The word infinite is but a negative which excludes the ideas of bounds. It is evident that being independent and omnipresent cannot be limited by anything which is outside of himself, that there can be nothing exterior to himself, but even vacuum, then where is there room for matter for that manifested universe, even though latter be limited? So in this last slide, we will find what theologians means, this religious people. They are lost in a mystery that the most absurd supernaturalism can imagine a self-existent being. Means Ishvara or Parambrahma is a self-existent being. Sometimes a theologian says, oh, Lord Shiva is a Swayambhu, means self-existent being of a necessity, infinite, and omnipresent, self-existent but infinite, omnipresent, outside the manifested boundless universe. Means someone is there, a very powerful person. He created all the whole universe. Whole the universe he created. Means innumerable galaxies, universes, solar system, everything created by this supernatural, self-existent being. The word infinite, but a negative, is but which exclude the ideas of bounds. So when you talk of the infinite, there is no question of bounds. So it is evident that a being independent and omnipresent cannot be limited by anything which is outside of itself. At one time you can tell them omnipresent, omniscient, all powerful, independent. Then you can say that he is beyond, he is outside of himself. There can be nothing exterior to himself. Mahatma mentioned there can be nothing exterior to himself, not even vacuum. Then where is there is room for matter? Mula Prakriti, where is there? For that manifested in universe, even though the latter being limited. So nice of you all, brothers and sisters. I conclude this part of letters number 88. So we'll proceed next Friday. Thank you for watching. Now I'm closing this slide.
Thank you, Brother Pradeep ji. This is some very heavy matter for contemplation. And now I request Sister Meenakshi ji to give us the translation in Hindi. Then I'm sure we can have a very nice interactive discussion.
नमस्ते सभी को. थैंक यू सिस्टर. थैंक यू ब्रदर महापात्रा जी. प्रस्तुत लेख ह्यूम लिखित गॉड के प्रिलिमिनरी चैप्टर जो गुह्य तत्वज्ञान के विवेचन पर प्रस्तावना के रूप में है, उस पर मास्टर के एच के नोट्स है. मास्टर लिखते हैं, न तो हमारा तत्वज्ञान या आत्मविद्या और न ही हम ईश्वर को मानते हैं. हमारा तत्वज्ञान हॉब्स के ईश्वर की व्याख्या के अंतर्गत आता है. यह मुख्य रूप से कार्य कारणों द्वारा प्रभावों का और प्रभावों द्वारा कारणों का शास्त्र है. और चूंकि यह प्रथम तत्व फर्स्ट प्रिंसिपल से निष्कर्षित चीजों का भी शास्त्र है, जैसे कि बैकॉन ने इसे परिभाषित किया है. इससे पहले कि हम ऐसे किसी भी सिद्धांत को स्वीकार करते हैं, हमें उसे जानना चाहिए और हमें उसकी संभावनाओं को भी स्वीकारने का कोई अधिकार नहीं है. आपको बताया गया था कि हमारा ज्ञान हमारे सौर मंडल तक ही सीमित था. इसलिए दार्शनिक जो इस नाम के योग्य बने रहना चाहते थे, हम उस अस्तित्व को न तो नकार सकते थे और न ही पुष्टि कर सकते थे, जिसे आपने सर्वोच्च सर्वशक्तिमान उस सौर मंडल की सीमाओं से परे किसी प्रकार की बुद्धिमान सत्ता कहा था. लेकिन अगर ऐसा अस्तित्व बिल्कुल असंभव नहीं है, फिर भी जब तक कि प्रकृति के नियम की समानता उन सीमाओं पर नहीं भंग होती है, हम मानते हैं कि यह बिल्कुल ही असंभव है. फिर भी हम इस दिशा में और सौर मंडल से संबंधित अज्ञेयवाद को दृढ़ता से नकारते हैं. हमारा सिद्धांत कोई समझौता नहीं जानता. यह या तो पुष्टि करता है या नकारता है, क्योंकि यह जिसे सत्य मानता है उसके सिवाय कुछ नहीं सिखाता है. इसलिए हम दार्शनिकों और बौद्ध दोनों के रूप में ईश्वर को नकारते हैं. हम जानते हैं कि प्लैनेटरी और अन्य उन्नत जीव है, और हम जानते हैं कि हमारे सौर मंडल में ईश्वर जैसा कुछ नहीं है, न तो व्यक्तिगत और न ही अवैयक्तिक. परब्रह्म यह कोई ईश्वर नहीं है, बल्कि निरपेक्ष अपरिवर्तनीय नियम है. और ईश्वर अविद्या और माया के परिणाम स्वरूप है, जो महाभ्रम पर आधारित अज्ञान है। ईश्वर शब्द का आविष्कार उन प्रभावों के अज्ञात कारण को निर्दिष्ट करने के लिए किया गया था, जिनकी मनुष्य ने बिना उन्हें समझे या तो सराहा है या उनसे डरा है। और चूंकि हम दावा करते हैं और हम जो दावा करते हैं उसे साबित करने में सक्षम है, यानी उन कार्य कारण और कारणों का ज्ञान हम कायम रखने की स्थिति में है कि उनके पीछे कोई ईश्वर, कोई एक ईश्वर या अनेक देवता नहीं है। ईश्वर की संकल्पना यह स्वाभाविक नहीं बल्कि अभिगृहित धारणा है, और धर्मशास्त्रों के में केवल और हमारे बीच एक बात की समानता है, वह यह कि हम अनंतता का प्रतिपादन करते हैं। लेकिन जबकि हम अनंत और असीम आकाश, काल और गति से उत्पन्न होने वाली सभी घटनाओं, भौतिक, प्राकृतिक, इंद्रिय गोचर और ज्ञात कारण बताते हैं, आस्तिक उन्हें आध्यात्मिक, अलौकिक और अबोधगम्य अज्ञात कारण बताते हैं। धर्मशास्त्रियों के मतानुसार ईश्वर एक काल्पनिक शक्ति है, जैसे कि डी होलबैच उसे भेड़िए में परिवर्तित मनुष्य कहते हैं, एक ऐसी शक्ति जिसने स्वयं को अभी तक प्रकट नहीं किया है। हमारा प्रमुख उद्देश्य मानवता को इस कुस्वप्न से मुक्ति दिलाना है, मनुष्य को अपने हित के लिए सद्गुण सिखाने और धर्मशास्त्रीय बैसाखी पर निर्भर होने के बजाय, जो अनगिनत युगों से लगभग सभी मानवीय दुखों का प्रत्यक्ष कारण थी, उन्हें स्वयं पर भरोसा करते हुए जीवन यापन करना सिखाना है। हमें सर्वेश्वरवादी कहा जा सकता है, लेकिन कभी अनिश्वरवादी नहीं। यदि मनुष्य हमारे परब्रह्म को अपनी अनंतता में अजर, अमर और अचेतन रूप में ईश्वर को मानते हैं और स्वीकार करने के इच्छुक है, तो वे ऐसा कर सकते हैं और इस प्रकार एक और लंबा चौड़ा मिथ्या नाम रख सकते हैं। लेकिन फिर उन्हें स्पिनोजा के साथ यह कहना होगा कि ईश्वर के अलावा वे किसी अन्य सत्व की कल्पना नहीं कर सकते हैं, या जैसे कि प्रसिद्ध और अभागे तत्ववेत्ता अपने 14वें प्रपोजिशन में कहते हैं, ईश्वर के अलावा किसी भी सत्व की कल्पना नहीं की जा सकती है या नहीं हो सकता है, और इस प्रकार वे सर्वेश्वरवादी बन गए। एक धर्मशास्त्री जो रहस्य पूर्णता और सबसे बेतुके अलौकिकवाद में पले बढ़े हैं, उनके अलावा कौन उस असीमित ब्रह्मांड के बाहर के अनंत और सर्वव्यापी अनिर्वाहता वाले स्वयंभू अस्तित्व की कल्पना कर सकता है? अनंत असीम यह एक नकारात्मक शब्द है जो सीमितता के विचार को वर्जित करता है। यह स्पष्ट है कि स्वतंत्र सर्वव्यापी को अपने से बाहर किसी भी चीज से सीमित नहीं किया जा सकता है, कि उसके स्वयं से बाहर कुछ भी नहीं हो सकता, शून्यता भी नहीं। फिर पदार्थ के लिए जगह कहाँ है? उस व्यक्त ब्रह्मांड के लिए, भले ही वह सीमित हो। थैंक यू। नमस्ते।
Thank you, Meenakshi ji. That was a very efficient translation of this. And now I would like to invite anybody who has anything to discuss on the same. Please unmute and you may speak.
नमस्कार।
Namaste, namaste, sir.
सर, इसमें लिखा है, अभी पात्रा सर ने बताया, no adept has ever penetrated beyond wheel of primitive cosmic matter. The highest, the most effect vision limited to the universe, form and matter. ये थोड़ा समझ में नहीं आया।
जी सर, मीन्स आप लेटर नंबर 18 मीन्स इस पुस्तक का 18 नंबर जाएंगे तो देखेंगे, इसमें महात्मा मेंशन दैट दे हैव power, means they can go beyond the solar system, means our system, सौरमंडल का जो परिधि है ना, वो beyond जा सकेंगे. But here they are by law, they are directed not to go beyond that. Means someone in your house will tell you that you cannot go beyond your boundary. Then you will be limited, like a बच्चे के जो school में है ना, don't go outside the school compasses. Same thing happening here. छोटा सा एग्जाम्पल में दे रहे हो आपको, तो बच्चे कभी बाहर नहीं जाता है. बाहर जाएंगे तो maybe they are not capable. That is the reason here they have mentioned that they are not to go. Knowledge is limited to this our solar system. That is the reason.
Okay, they are not permitted to go there
Go there.
by their seniors.
Maybe that was the law by their seniors. I am just remembering while Anivesant was meditating deeply. At that time, she marked from solar, from our solar god, means Surya Narayan, some light is coming. Light is coming in a direction going through earth. Then what it came to her mind that she will merge herself in that light. Then immediately Mahatma M, her teacher, appeared. Don't do that. If you will go that with that light, you will go billions and billions years away from the present position.
Yes, sir, that we have followed, sir. We have read somewhere.
Yes.
Thank you. And one more question, sir.
Yes.
One more question. Ishvara is effect of this Ishvara is effect of avidya and maya, so ignorance. So
Yes.
God and Ishvara are different here.
Yes. Vivaji or Sindhe sir is there. Kindly Sindhe sir, help me.
Yeah, I was coming.
In the above line, there is God. Then the next line they say is.
Yes.
Yeah, I was coming. It is an important question actually.
Yes, sir.
That is why this letter emphasizes
Yes, sir.
your concept of God, your concept of matter, your concept of evil. These are definitely helpful for all of us to have a conviction of God, conviction of matter, conviction of evil which is within us. All these three things are very important to have as an ideal also, because man is the expression of God. Therefore, God is reality to man. Why not we can have this ideal at before? And this makes man to see his own reality. Because when we say man is the expression of God, so God is reality to man. And this idea makes us to penetrate into that wheel of matter, which is over the God concept. And we may go beyond. So God is absolute reality. That is what T. Subbarao also said. But there is a veil, there is a covering over that, and that covering is Maya. And human consciousness, it is said, can't penetrate beyond that veil, beyond that matter, because we have knowledge of God. But knowledge of God is not God. Knowledge of tree is not a tree, as J. Krishnamurti says. But speaking about God, thinking about God, having knowledge about God and matter and evil, that makes our intellect sharp. That is why Master K.H. guides us. Think of it deeply, then it is our own intellect our own imagination, our own ideas, project in our own manas principle. That leads to real inquiry, that leads to real attention, that leads to real awareness, which helps us to liberate what we have concept of God, matter, and evil. That is what I think, what I have understood. Vibhaji, you can also throw some light on it.
Yes, thank you, sir. One thing you have very nicely mentioned, that nothing can be known about Parbrahma. Upanishads also mention that. It is anirvachaniya and akalpaniya, beyond imagination, beyond thought. What we can know of is only the covering which is there over that, which you said is Maya, that is correct, or Mool Prakriti. So basically, Mool Prakriti is itself Maya, and nobody can penetrate through that Maya. So that is why it is mentioned that no adept has ever penetrated through this veil of form and matter. Now, the second point which Brother Sharmaji has raised is about how Ishwar is under avidya or Maya. Because in Secret Doctrine, what Madam Blavatsky has written, Ishwar is the sum total of the intelligences in the manifested universe, sum total of the Dhyan Chohans. So, in that way, if you see, Ishwar is Brahma, and that the manifested universe has a beginning. It gets manifested, and after a certain time, the universal Manvantar, it will be reabsorbed or it will be dissolved. So it has a beginning, it has an end. Therefore, Ishwar, which is the sum total of the manifested intelligence, it is considered as it is under Maya. Maya is Mool Prakriti, which is getting manifested periodically. So Maya is above Ishwar. That is how I have understood. And one more point which I would like to add here, about the cause, which in this letter it has mentioned, the causes and the effects. So everything, there is no God, it is the absolute law, and the whole thing is manifested by cause and effects. So in the beginning, there are two causes. One is the material cause, out of which this universe is made, the matter of the universe, which is again Mool Prakriti. This material cause in our scriptures, it is called as Upadhan Karan. This Madam Blavatsky also gives in the Secret Doctrine. So we can probe into or inquire into only the material cause. For example, the pot is made out of mud or earth. So we can know only about earth. The second cause, that is the efficient cause. Who makes the universe? The Nimitta Karan. We can know nothing about that. Coming to that example of the pot, the mud is there, which will become the pot. But who makes the pot? We need a potter to make the pot. But about that potter, we can know nothing. So about the efficient cause or the Nimitta Karan, we cannot know anything. We can only probe into the material cause, which is the Upadhan Karan. So this is the origin of causes of the universe. That is given in the Upanishad also and in Secret Doctrine also. So this is what I just wanted to add. Thank you. Anybody else would like to add something?
This Upadhan Karan is the Ishwar, no?
No. Upadhan Karan would be the material cause, that is Mool Prakriti.
Ultimate Upadhan is the Ishwar, no? You speak.
These are only terms to confuse us. So we should stick to one term only, which is given in Secret Doctrine, which I consider to be the knowledge given directly by Mahatmas through HPP, that about Parabrahma, which is absolute, we cannot know anything. Only the wheel which is covering Parabrahma, that is Mool Prakriti or material cause, only about that we can know or we can inquire into. Ishwar, remember, Ishwar is the sum total of the manifested intelligences.
Okay, madam. Thank you very much for detailed this comment.
Thank you. In a way, we can think of Ishwar as Brahma. I'm not sure. I'm just thinking aloud.
we say Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma. Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha. See,
Parabrahma.
this Parabrahma is Ishvara. So we are focusing our attention to that Parabrahma. Not Brahma,
Now it is
Vishnu,
crystal
Mahesha, but
clear,
beyond
sir.
that.
Thank you.
Oneness.
Correct. Correct. Any other point of discussion? Just to, yes. Any more question? Okay. In this letter, Mahatma Ji is trying to explain to Hume that there is no anthropomorphic God. I think this idea is very clearly mentioned in the Advait Vedantic scriptures, which says that everything arises in Parbrahma and of Parbrahma. So there is nothing external to it, like there being an external God who is creating something. That is not possible. The idea is everything is within Parbrahma and of Parbrahma. Would you like to say something? I am getting some sound from Firoza and Zinu Master. Anything you would like to say, sir?
Oh, there. No, it is.
Okay, you have muted yourself.
We thank the speakers. Thanks to all the speakers. Okay.
Okay, most welcome. So, Pradeep ji, now with your permission, can we close the session?
Yes, close.
Okay, thank you, sir. And thank you all for joining in this very lively discussion. I'm sure it will give us a lot of food for thought. So and we'll continue this letter in our next session. It will take a few more sessions. So let's close the session with our closing prayer. Om Asito Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Sarvesham Swastirabhavatu Sarvesham Shantirabhavatu Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu Lokaha Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu Sarve Bhavantu Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschit Dukhabhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Namaste. Thank you all.